Hey guys, I'm Danny,
And I'm EJ, and this is the Your Living Proof podcast.
where we talk about addiction and how it affects the family, from the brutal to the beautiful and everything in between. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Your Living Proof podcast,
Hey guys,
number 64.
how's it going?
As long as we keep podcasting together, maybe we will always stay together.
I hope we have a little bit more strength than the podcast at this point.
I had a genius idea today in the shower after the gym. From now on, every argument, disagreement, or fight we get in should happen in the podcast booth.
Why? Because it's padded? No one can hear us yelling or killing each other?
You can't. You can only beat me so bad. No, because
You guys know one time I took Danny down, just so we're clear. I spider monkeyed him. He didn't think that I could do it, and I did.
It's baloney.
I want you to know, no, I took him down. Like, I did. You can admit it. It's okay. We know you're
Okay,
strong.
she took me down. Let's move on. I'm glad you had that satisfaction.
Thank you.
But the reason is it sounds so much better. I think the yelling or the arguing would be minimized because of the cool sound of your voice in the
Yeah.
microphone and then the headphones.
I like that.
So let's do it. I think it'd
Okay.
be help.
Okay.
Today is episode 64. And again, this platform, this show is for everyone out there who loves someone stuck in the deadly trap of addiction. Whether it's your spouse, your child, it could be your sibling, your grandchild, it could even be your parent. Frantically, desperately trying to figure out what you can do to change the course of this destructive path.
Yep, that's right. And
So-
we know you need the support, so we're glad you found us.
It's for you. And our hope is that by getting to know us and hearing from some of these shows that you can learn to trust us because we have a program that can help you.
That's right.
So it is a topic that I do consider myself one of the greatest experts on, which is helping families navigate through this.
Yes.
I know from firsthand experience. Now I've been on the other side. I've been in both sides of the situation to be able to help people and give them the honest answers that nobody else is.
Yeah. It is so awesome to see, actually, the full circle.
But outside of this topic, I have mess of problems. We just added to the chaos of our life.
We did. And we actually, I mean, we really did. We did it with gusto. I'm not going to lie. And I did it knowing that it was scary and that, like, I was terrified of doing it. Like,
Just tell them what we
fully.
did.
But we got a puppy. We got
Here,
a puppy.
Hold on. I am going to say something right now. Everyone who knew me when I was a little boy, right, and you play these games, what are you going to grow up to be or what's going to happen in your life? If someone was to say, okay, when I was like 5 years old, is Danny going to grow up and end up incarcerated or would he own a cat? Everyone in my life would have said he'd be incarcerated.
For sure. So obviously you had to do both. It's only
I only
fair.
say that because she just said we got a dog. We also have a cat, 22 chickens. And last week alone, my wife sent me a bunch of, what do you call those things? Classifieds for a Highlander, alpacas,
Miniature donkey.
a miniature donkey. And I'm just like, what are we doing?
He's surrendered. He's fully in love, you guys.
No.
15 years in.
But one of our children has had an onset of anxiety, dealing with a difficult time in life. And so the dog was...
Yeah, it was mainly for our daughter, who's really, I mean, she had a very acute onset of anxiety. And so we got this puppy, it's a long-haired Chihuahua. It's the tiniest little love ever. We named her Lulu. And we surprised her last week and brought this puppy in the morning when she woke up. And you can go to our Instagram and see her response because it was like visceral. Like, I did not anticipate her having this like very, very raw, real, physical response to this puppy. I mean, it was more than like, oh, so cute. I mean, she was just sobbing.
No, and the approach is trying to do things before we take the path of medicine.
Right.
You know, not that that's a bad path. For some people, it's absolutely necessary, but we're trying to do some of these things. We found, it's cool, we went through this whole process and we found a program.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guess what we just found? We found the Living Proof program for this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool.
And we're starting her in that program, and we got a puppy, so we're just crazy. Like,
Yeah, we are. But we're living life like we want to.
yeah,
on
and
our
we're going to start fighting in the podcast booth.
Yeah, totally. So with that, I want to share the topic today is the elephant in the room. And I just want to share something that Danny shares in groups all of the time. And I think that it's really, really profound. So I wanted to talk about it today.
The
It
biggest
is,
elephant in the room?
yeah, it's addressing the biggest elephant in the room when it comes to addiction.
Yeah. What is it?
You tell me, because
It's not fair.
It's
That's the
not
biggest
fair.
elephant in the room. It's not fair. This situation, this terrible situation that you're in, it's not your fair. It's not your fault. It's not fair. Whether it was your spouse, your sibling, your parent, or someone that you love, they did this. They did. They put themselves and all of you into this complete and total mess. So the elephant in the room is, let's acknowledge the first thing. When I start working with people, here's the very first thing. This isn't fair.
Yeah.
Because the mindset is, well, why in the hell are they not seeking help? Why are they not the ones that are putting together this plan to try to fix things?
Yeah.
Shouldn't they be the ones to get us out of this mess?
Yeah. And if you've listened to any of our podcasts or been on our social media platforms at all, you would know, you have heard us say this, but the number one lie about addiction is that they have to want it for themselves, right?
It is. It's the reason why the leading cause of death, individuals 18 to 45, is drug overdose to one single drug, fentanyl. And then if you look down the list, there's drug overdose to other drugs and alcohol-related deaths. It's because everyone believes that lie. They have to want it for themselves.
Yeah.
And can I share my response to that?
Yeah.
Well, of course they do.
Yes. It would be nice.
Of course they have to want it for themselves. But this powerful concept will literally send most of you off in the right trajectory, is that will never be what gets the process started. Something or someone else has to intervene. And hopefully when that happens, they have just enough time to want it for themselves.
Right. Yes. So again, the elephant in the room is, this is not fair. It's not fair that your life has been impacted and adjusted because of someone else's problems, someone else's poor choices, someone else's addiction. It's not fair that you are the one that has to do the heavy lifting while they check out and live in La La Land. It's not fair that your life got tossed upside down like a snow globe while the other person continues to make horrible choices and take no responsibility for it. It's not fair that they get to, I say get to because I'm a mom and I'm like, man, it would be kind of nice. Like, you go to the hospital to have a baby, it's kind of nice. Like, you're forced to sit down for 2 days. This person gets to have 30 days to just think about themselves and reflect on themselves and work on themselves. Heal while you pay for it and do all their work and yours. That's not fair. It's truly not fair. And it's never convenient.
No.
And it's never easy. So what we want to discuss is, why does addiction specifically elicit a completely different response to crisis than anything else?
There's several times that we've shared this comparison, right? But if your loved one was to have been in a terrible accident, maybe broke both their legs and their back, they're unable to walk. I don't think there's a human being that loves someone that would be put into a place where they're yelling at them to get up off the couch and knock it off. Come on, just walk.
Right.
Now, for those in those situations, my goodness, what a difficult road. The amount of sacrifice and effort that goes into it, right?
Yeah.
You can't even know unless you've been there. But still, the situation, when you look at it, why is it that with addiction, we have a different approach? Maybe they weren't broken. Maybe they had heart failure or cancer or something. No one would ever be looking at them, disgusted, telling them to knock it off, pleading with them to just stop doing that.
Or resenting them for it, right?
So, wow. Let's discuss the mindset. What I really want to do is get it out in the light, because I think this is something when people grasp onto, it changes everything. Why is the mindset different? Why do we look at these situations differently?
Well, just to be totally blunt,
Which you always are.
which I have to be because
And you
it's the
look
only way I know.
gorgeous, by the way.
Thanks. I washed my hair today.
Whenever
It's
she
a kind
washes
of
her
a
hair,
big
I
deal.
don't know. It is exciting.
It's a big deal. But just to be blunt, with addiction, we see that they are choosing something.
Yeah.
Not that something has been forced upon them, like a cancer diagnosis or some acute injury. There has always been, and there will always be, this debate, right? Is this a moral breakdown? Is this person just choosing to live recklessly and with no regard for others? Or is this a disease?
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we drill that down a little bit more, maybe logically we're able, in a situation where we're not attached to it, right? It's not a family member. We could look at a situation and say, well, it's a disease. I mean, clearly it's a disease. But when it manifests in somebody that we love, it changes it.
Amen. You just nailed it.
And we don't see it as anything but just like a choice that they've made that sucks, that they just keep
But why is
making.
that? Why is that?
Well,
I got to sum up what she just said. When we've come as far as a society inside of churches, groups, schools, workplaces to like understand these situations better. And if we're talking about your neighbor's kid, even if it's like your sister's child,
yeah.
you can see it.
Yeah, you can see it one step back.
So why is it that when it's the people that we love that we're close to that we can't? Why?
Okay, well, I know why. And I mean, for me, it's because you know them. Like, you know what they're capable of. You know it on a deep level. Like,
meaning before any of this happened,
right,
you knew.
like you know that they're capable of making better choices. They've done it before. You've witnessed it in your life for years. Like, you know that. And you just cannot wrap your mind around the fact that all of the consequences that are so obvious for everyone can see it 10 miles away, are not registering to them. So it becomes this like your addiction to fixate on all of the damage that's being done and focusing on that, and it literally like neutralizes you to be able to see the addiction. Like, you just focus on all of the symptoms of the addiction, just like all the crap that's happening.
Yeah.
So you know who they are, you know what they're capable of. You've seen them operate at a much higher level than this. And so to you just get stuck on, why are they choosing this? Like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Can I add in? For the majority of someone's addiction, right? Excuse me.
Get that water, Dan.
It's unnoticeable.
Oh, that's true. They can hide it.
I always call it this 10-chapter book. Anyone that has an addiction, I don't care if it's sex, alcohol, prescription drugs, illicit drugs, there's a 10-chapter book. The first 9 chapters, maybe 8.5. No one can see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
really,
actually
really
kind of
right.
boring. They're just kind of building the plot, talking about the characters, creating the story. It's only in the very end that you can see it. But even when you see it, people still see that person that they knew, that person that was awesome.
Yep.
It's one thing that I hear every time, and I hope I do continue to hear it because it's the truth.
Yeah.
You know what? They are the greatest person.
Oh, yes.
My son or daughter, they were the greatest. The person that walked in the room and lit up the room, and everyone wanted to be around. And that is true. So you keep seeing them as that person.
Yes. And then you also see the exact opposite of you, like staring you in the face all day. So it's just like this crazy slap in the face that you're just like, come on, like, be different, you know? And so, yeah, it's a crazy situation that you get put in. And unless it's directly you just can't see it the same. But when it is you, it is jarring. So I just want to talk about, like, I love to talk about personal examples for me because it's...
Well, how about the fact that you can't get over the situation or maybe see it for what it is because you're not them?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, many of us, all of you, every normal person in the world of recovery, we call you people normies. I'm still a recovering addict. So
I'm a normie.
yeah, normie, where you have a bad habit, whether it's
Yeah.
eating or doing something or I don't know, even taking or doing things you shouldn't, you course correct.
Yeah.
Because something like manifested itself and you're like, oh, I better stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when you do
And
that,
you have the ability to do that.
you do. And so you're looking at them, expecting them to do the same thing.
Correct. And I love that you said that because it's so true that there are people, like I'm one of them. I could have 10 pills, like 10 bottles of
Pain pills.
Oxycontin on my nightstand, and I would literally never ever open a bottle ever.
Yeah.
Unless maybe I had to amputate my own leg or something. Like, I hate pain pills. They don't do me right. Like, I hate them. But you are not one of those people.
No, but you still would expect everyone to have the same response as you.
Right. Like, hello, you know that you can't take that.
Yeah. So that's another contributing factor.
Yes, that is. So
Let's share your personal story.
So my personal story, I want to share this because it still goes to show how deep this can cut, right? Like, I work. This is like what I live and breathe, and it still like will slap me in the face all the time, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting sucked in. I have a friend whose husband developed a massive addiction to pornography. Okay, his addiction led him to do some of the most abhorrent, unthinkable things I think you can do to your family. I mean, he put them in financial ruin, bankrupt them. He destroyed relationships all around them. He put their family in actual physical jeopardy. Okay. He actually stole his own wife's wedding ring to pawn it, and then tried to collect the insurance money on it.
I wish I haven't heard that same thing dozens of times.
Okay. I mean, that's
when you're getting down
that is next
to
level.
the 10th chapter.
Okay? So when I was finding all of this out, I didn't want to help him. I didn't see him as somebody that needed help. I actually wanted to Beth Dutton his ass. Like, I wanted, do you have the bleep button on there? You might want to. There. Oh, that was, yeah.
Yeah, something good.
I wanted to find him and take him to the train station in the most brutal way.
Okay, if people, I'm going to translate to show Yellowstone. What she means is rough them up and get rid of them.
Yeah, I did. I was so mad. I actually couldn't believe that this horrible, horrible human being had any influence over how my friend felt about herself, about how she felt in her life, of even being safe. It made me furious. So I'm telling Danny this, and I'm telling him how much I want Danny to go after him. I want you to go find him, and I want you to teach him a lesson. And Danny's like,
he'd be more scared of you than me.
For sure. I'm much meaner. And again, I spider monkeyed Danny, so it's fine. But Danny quickly reminded me, like, oh, babe, he has a mental illness. That he has absolutely no control anymore over anything that he does. This is not something that he is choosing. He has lost that ability completely. This is not a bad habit that he developed. This is an addiction that he has completely lost control of his ability to choose.
And that's where I got to cut in.
Go ahead.
And shed some light on the truth. When I share this with people, I know, and I tell them and I reassure them, I know it sounds like a cop-out. I know the amount of people I'm working with that had just described a similar situation that you just shared is crazy.
Yeah.
Unthinkable. I mean, stealing money from their kids' bank account, all these things.
Yeah. Monster stuff.
So when I say they're no longer capable, when I say that they have lost the ability to choose, it sounds like a cop-out. And sometimes people get a little mad.
It does sound like a cop-out.
Yeah, like I'm excusing their behavior, right?
Yeah, like, oh, poor them. They're so addicted.
They now have a disease of the brain and they can't do it, and they get mad.
Yeah.
So
it makes me mad.
Let me shed some light, some truth. they did at some point. If we're arguing, like if this is a moral breakdown of something they can knock off or it's an actual disease, at some point they did. Everybody did. I did. Made poor choices. We did things we shouldn't have. We maybe tried things that were probably not the greatest thing to choose. But at some point, you become dependent on that. You need it, right? Like
Yeah.
you need ibuprofen if you're hurting or Tylenol if you have a headache, right? They need this. And then it crosses over another bridge into dependency. Like they depend on it.
Yeah.
And before you know it, and it's different for everyone, it could be weeks, months, or years, it rewires their brain and actually creates an illness. So that's the response. If people are like, is this a moral breakdown or is this a disease? Who cares?
And Danny says that all the time. He's like, who
cares? We have to figure out how to move forward with or without their cooperation, but we're going to put together a plan if they want it, and the plan's going to set you free.
And they won't want it for a long time.
So remember this, poor choices were made. Poor choices were made in the beginning. It could have come from different things. It could have come from peer pressure.
Yeah.
It could have come from curiosity. It could have come from being in a desperate place where you just feel so isolated, alone, depressed, anxious. You tried something that you never fathomed trying. It could come from like severe trauma. Maybe someone experienced something so heinous, so terrible, that that's what kind of pushed them into it. But that sweet daughter of yours, that incredible husband who would have never fathomed doing drugs or alcohol, at some point in their life, for one reason or another, they tried something. And I always say Satan is an opportunistic person.
Absolutely.
He will wait until you're beat down. And then all of a sudden, this old friend shows up and has something crazy, and you try it.
Yeah.
Waits for the right time. But something they took, even when they knew they shouldn't, wasn't the greatest idea, maybe that it was wrong, that they were taught that it was bad since they were little, gave them instant relief.
Confusing.
Super confusing. It's a super confusing thing when you just did something you've been taught your whole life is wrong. You know it's wrong. It may even be illegal, and you feel better. Like you're almost brought to tears because it's for the first time you feel whole. You feel confident. You feel comfortable. You feel everything that you hadn't been able to feel. However, if you can just accept and own the fact that, yes, they made poor choices. Those poor choices led them to needing this. Then they became dependent on this, and then they created an illness. They are no longer able to make their choice, any of their own choices or decisions. And the hard part is again, when someone's deep in addiction like I was, using drugs in an unthinkable manner, you still have moments of clarity. There's times when you're somewhat sober, and the people see that. So
Yeah.
it's this tug of war of like,
Yeah, absolutely. They get a little peep like
When you're-
of your true self again, and then they have hope, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
oh my gosh, his eyes aren't dilated, or
Yeah.
he isn't like shaking.
Yep. Or he broke down and he actually cried in my arms and told me, how much he hates this.
Yeah.
And it gives you just enough hope.
Which is why it leads us as family members treating this situation differently.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so, so true. It just gives you enough hope. So I want to talk about a little bit more about the fact that it's maddening. It makes you angry. When Danny's like, it doesn't matter, like if it's a poor choice or not, it makes me angry because I just want to hold this person responsible, right? And so I had to actually kind of do a little bit of like soul searching on that, because I just feel like in the moment that's just not good enough for me. Like I need to understand that differently. So I came across this amazing speech given about how addiction removes the ability for a person to choose. And maybe even more specifically, how to see the difference between someone who's developed a bad habit, right, where they're in the poor choices stage, and someone who is in active addiction, okay? And I think it might help some of you that are listening and that are quite stuck by this, because it does make you stop in your tracks. whether you want it to or not. It paralyzes you. And so here it is. I'm just going to read this one little part of it to you, and it's and this is from Boyd K. Packer in this speech called "Revelation in a Changing World," and he says, "Our physical body is the instrument of our spirit. And addiction serves the design of the prince of darkness, for it disrupts the channel to the Holy Spirit of truth. Addiction has the capacity to disconnect the human will and nullify moral agency. It can rob one of the power to decide."
It's powerful.
It's really powerful, especially when you just use the word opportunistic. Satan is opportunistic. Now, I don't care what your belief system is. If you believe in good versus evil, we are in a war for good versus evil. And I believe that Satan has a massive advantage right now because of all the drugs in the world. And then you have families that become, like we're pointing out, quite paralyzed by that experience inside of their home because they get stuck on this. Wait a minute, they're a really good person. Wait a minute, I've seen them make better choices before. Wait a minute, I know they can overcome this. I've overcome this. And so I just really, really want us to remember, as maddening as it is, as much of a cop-out you think it is to say that somebody has a disease of the brain. Truly, when somebody is in active addiction, they no longer have access to their own agency. That's the truth. And it's a tough pill to swallow, and it's not fair. It's not fair.
It's not. That's the elephant in the room. And I love when you speak your voice. I just got kind of caught off listening to you.
Did you? Oh, I love that. Maybe buy me an alpaca.
Yep. See, that's why we fight. We fight in the podcast booth. But thank you for sharing that.
Well, I mean, the truth is, it really is one of Satan's biggest weapons. It is.
Well,
And so we have to respond to it differently.
it's the only fatal illness where the family gets sick with you. Cancer's not contagious.
No.
Heart failure is not contagious. Learning to walk again is not contagious. Do they all have effects in our life, financially, emotionally,
Right.
mentally? Yes. But we go into these situations with whatever it takes.
Yes.
Except when they're sick with an addiction like this, we still get hung up. Oh, they just need to knock it off.
Oh, yeah, they're just making a bad choice. I'm just really mad at them because they can do better than
Or,
this.
you know what? We don't need to do this. We can just take this route.
Right. And you know what? It would be more convenient if we waited for 3 months because that's when this is going to happen.
Oh, my gosh.
Right? I mean that's the truth. And
Well,
that's
it's also embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing. It's ugly. It's you don't even want people to know.
Oh, no, yeah. Oh, I mean, especially, I mean, I'm sorry for, my friend. It's kind of like, well, now we're going to have to get other people involved that we really don't want to involve in this, right? Ex-spouses, things like that. Like, it's messy. This
Yeah.
is a messy process.
Yep. It's why we've done what we've done.
But hey, if somebody is paralyzed, are you going to be like, this is too messy, we can't involve this person?
Nope.
No.
Dive head first.
But you're right. This is why we have done what we have done and why we do this podcast and why we have the services that we have. It is because it's not fair. And there are no resources for families who are in this situation. And if you want to actually stand up and fight against the actual power of darkness in this world, you cannot take the natural response, which I always want to take, which is just go Beth Dutton them.
Yeah.
You have to actually go, you know what? This person is sick. I'm going to calculatedly, strategically approach this different, just like I would if they were paralyzed.
Anyone who's talked with me, worked with me, has heard me say this. Everyone thinks that they're so clinically unique, that they are going to be the first ones to do what no other man or family has done in the history of mankind.
Oh, yeah.
Which is exit this train on their own. But they get hung up on so many things of, oh, well, we will, or we're not like that, or it's not that bad, or hey, we're so-and-so, and so we know better. You are headed down the same path that everyone else is.
Yep.
So someone reached out recently and they're like, I guess someone who didn't like me is mad at something I did, said, if you really liked or cared about people suffering like you did, you would be helping them. Like you'd be focusing on them. And I was like, wow, I can see why they're frustrated.
Yeah.
They want me to go fix the problem as bad as they want the problem to be fixed.
Right.
There's a million resources out there for that loved one of yours who's sick. But there's nothing out there to help you. I know from personal experience, I had no chance, no choice. Yes, did I go get help? Yes, were there so many professionals and peoples and doctors and psychiatrists and therapists involved? Yes. But they got me started. They stopped the bleeding. Who supported me then? Who got me there? Who welcomed me home? Who walked with me through all of this was my family. So helping the family is the greatest way. I empathize and I want that person you love to get healthy more than anyone else other than you, because I know the joy that's out there for them. But I also know that if their family doesn't learn, their path is waiting till it's court ordered by a judge, something else happens, or they die. It's just how it ends up.
Right.
So of course, there are many other factors that make this situation when someone has an addiction difficult to navigate or even just start beginning working on. And all of them, they cause us to approach the situation differently. Okay. It is about your mindset. And when you see the situation for what it is, you change the approach. There are other factors. Maybe for a long time, they appear very sick and totally fine other times, right? They're going to fight you. They're going to manipulate you. They are going to fight tooth and nail to stay sick. There's so many things. But when you have the mindset of realizing that they're sick, your loved one may be in the stage of, we outline the 6 stages.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to our website, you can watch. We have a masterclass video that talks about these 6 stages. Maybe your loved one's at the stage where they're dependent.
Yeah.
And they're not like a full-blown, have a brain disease. Like they're getting there.
Yeah.
They're on that path. But they could be at any stage. We have to flip the mindset of looking at it. And I think, like we said earlier, society's come to a point where we see it and we accept it. But when it's in our home with our spouse or our child, we see it different.
Yeah.
I think we neglected to mention one thing, and that's because of love.
Oh, yeah.
You love someone so much that you see the good in them, even when it's hard.
Yep.
Even when it's gone.
Well, you see their potential too. You see their potential.
Yeah.
Which is true love.
It's like a mother's love. When she sees her child, she sees them a way that no one else in the world can.
Yeah.
Which blinds you from the fact that you're fighting for their life.
Yep.
So applying these concepts, and I think this actually holds true more to people that are successful, educated, God-fearing people, right? Because of our moral structure, because of the amount of intellect that we have and success that we've had in life, it even makes facing addiction harder.
Oh, for sure it does.
Than maybe some people who don't have those things in their life.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
It is, and it's okay. If you are someone who's looked at someone you love and just been like, you just need to knock it off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
or I just need to pray more about this and then I'll be able to help them. I mean, you should pray about it. I'm not saying you shouldn't.
No, pray for the courage to do what's going to be difficult.
Yes.
And pray for the courage to find help and ask for help.
And on that note, I want to read the Serenity Prayer for families because we read this every week and it's so, so important. And it is for you, the listener. God grant me the serenity to accept that I cannot change other people and the courage to change the person that I can and the wisdom to know that it is me. And that is why we're here. That is why we do this.
The percentage of people who overcome these life-threatening illnesses of addiction is very small. But I will tell you, when a family unites, learns how to effectively intervene, gets healthy themselves, and figures out how to support you in a program of recovery, a large percent of those people that have that in their life do recover. We're here for you. We want you to have success in getting sanity back into your family, restoring peace into your family, and getting your loved one the help that they need.
And hey, if you liked this podcast today, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to it because we just started it.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to see what we actually look like
Yeah.
on the days that I wash my hair, then go to our YouTube channel and subscribe and make sure and share it with somebody else because I guarantee you know someone that
Yes,
needs
please.
it.
That was my plug. Share it with your sister or your friend at the gym or the person at church who you know is in this right
Yep.
now. We're here for you. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.